Hey, this is Ish, and in today's talk, I'll be going over the difference between being an introvert and being a shy extrovert. And I think there can be a lot of confusion at times if you have someone who's more extroverted, but they tend to appear more shy or withdrawn, and they can be mistaken for an introvert. And you may also believe that you're an introvert, but in reality, you could be a shy extrovert. And that is something that I had gone through to my journey where I thought I was an introvert, but in reality, I was actually more extroverted. But I had certain barriers that kept me from expressing that. And I'll describe later in this talk some of the reasons that hold you back from expressing yourself naturally as an extrovert if you are one. So I'll first define the difference between being an introvert and being an extrovert. So the key difference is where you draw your energy from. So if you draw your energy from the world around you, experience the senses, and through being with other people, you tend to lean towards extroversion. On the other hand, if you draw energy from solitude and also inner experiences, tend to lean towards more of the introverted side. And the brains of extroverts and introverts actually function differently. So with extroverts, they have more dopamine receptors, so they would need more stimulus in order to feel engaged, compared to the introverts that have less receptors, and as a result, they are more sensitive to external stimulus, and they can get overwhelmed easier. So you can say that extroverts prefer the dopamine pathways and respond to that. And according to author Susan Cain, introverts, on the other hand, respond more to the neurotransmitter of acetylcholine. And this typically makes you feel good when you turn inwards to when you're thinking about things and reflecting on things. It's more of a longer pathway. And of course, people can do both. And there are also people that are ambiverts, and you can train yourself to enjoy both sides of drawing pleasure from the outside world and also through inner experiences and reflecting on things. But if you find some resistance due to your lifestyle choices, it can be helpful to see whether you're forcing more of an extroverted lifestyle upon yourself or more an introvert lifestyle. One thing I had experienced on my journey is that when I had periods where I was prioritizing meditation over other things in life, it was creating more of an introverted lifestyle. And if you read the classical Eastern texts like the Tao Te Ching or Buddhist texts, you'll notice the overall lifestyle slants you towards introversion. For instance, in order to get into certain meditation absorption states, you actually need to be secluded from all of your senses and go beyond the senses. There are also buzzwords like noble silence in Buddhism, where you go through periods of not speaking. In the Tao Te Ching, for example, in verse 20, sage Lao Tzu says that while other people are excitable and merry, I alone am introverted or solitary. There's also references to being more reserved, being cautious, and living an overall lifestyle which is very simple and does not seek from the external environment as much. So clearly that makes sense, but I had noticed that even a couple thousand hours into my meditation practice, I'm definitely into it. I noticed that on retreats and silent retreats, after a couple of days, I got very anxious and I wanted to get out of there. And this has happened consistently throughout the years, despite the level of peace that I would feel. While other people in the retreat would feel very peaceful, I just felt restless and wanted to do something else. And this is an experience that many extroverts can face as well. And going on to being a shy extrovert may look like an introvert, especially if you're a bit more sensitive, you maybe have a softer voice or nervous. But one way to tell whether you're more extroverted is, do you actually enjoy the company of people, and does it refresh you and energize you when you're with the right people? So of course, when you're around people that are negative or drain your energy, you are not obviously energized by that. But when you're with people that are positive and uplifting, do you actually feed off that energy? Now, studies by the University of Minnesota has shown that over 3 decades of research has shown a link between extroversion and a positive affect. And anecdotally, one thing I've noticed is that when extroverted people hang around in social groups, the focus is typically on raising the vibe or the mood. So there's a lot of laughing, being positive, being happy. And when you're in that environment, over time, the happy emotions start to elevate more and more. So there's more gregariousness, more cheerfulness, more positivity. And if you do respond well and feed off these energies of positivity, cheerfulness, gregariousness, optimism, it may tilt you towards the extroverted direction. But the reason why it may not seem that you're an extrovert is because you have some barriers in the way. So this can include shyness, poor social experiences in the past, and different rejections that may have caused you to close up, and various negative associations with socializing. And this may cause you to appear more introverted. But one way to tell and find out whether we're actually more extroverted is to notice what you were like as a kid, because that is a time in our lives where we're free to completely be ourselves. And this is before society has conditioned us to act in a certain way or developed different masks or personas or armoring due to adverse conditions. And when you start to examine this, what were you like? So, was your natural self more energetic and bouncing off the walls and you're kind of crazy, like me when I was a kid? Or were you a bit more shy, more reserved, and quiet? And certain barriers, like I mentioned, could have clamped down these extroverted energies if you had them in you. So this could be, again, previous rejection. It could also be restrictive parents that would shame you when you were being social. Like they would say you're going out too much, stay inside. And you may have learned to develop an introverted lifestyle just because you were at home all the time. But maybe that's not what you naturally prefer to do. And then if you grow up to be an adult, then along the way you may have experienced certain things like depression or social anxiety, and maybe you didn't fit along with other people due to these experiences. So these can all be experiences that close off your willingness to engage with other people despite actually wanting to. And another thing that can close off or clamp down your extroversion can be neuroticism. And this is a trait found in the Big Five personality type test. And here, this is where you want to connect with others and experience positivity. But at the same time, you're also experiencing reactiveness, being afraid, being volatile with your emotions, snapping really quickly. And this comes from the trait of neuroticism. Neuroticism is roughly around 50% inherited from your parents. So you can actually look at your family of origin and notice what they're like. So neuroticism, while it seems like a total detrimental quality to have, actually had its use if you're growing up in an environment where things are a bit hostile towards your survival and you need to be a bit more suspicious and less trusting and more volatile to keep you alive. So you're actively looking for threats and being more vigilant. However, a lot of the times for interacting with other people, it does not really help you. But the nice thing about the practice of meditation is that over time, your levels of neuroticism actually go down if you stay consistent with your meditation practice and you start to become a bit more chilled out. And then the barriers that keep you from expressing your natural extroverted side kind of fade away. So you start to become more comfortable and confident in your own skin. And another tip to really see whether you're more introverted or just a shy extrovert or neurotic extrovert is to actually try spending more than a day alone. So say spend 3 or 4 days by yourself and notice without any interactions, are you going crazy or are you fine? And of course, even introverts need to socialize, but the key distinction here is to notice if you feel completely drained or restless and you're actually craving that company a lot, you may be more extroverted because introverts won't actually feel drained from being at home for a while. So I hope this talk helped, and let me know in the comments what your journey has been, and after trying these tips out, what have you noticed about yourself, and what advice can you share with other people that are also listening to this as well? Thanks.